Culture change. It's happened before. It needs to happen again. Take a good look at a fire rescue response in Coral Gables back in 1985. No gloves, no goggles, no fear. District Chief Tony Tozzi sees himself holding an IV bag in his mouth. That was the norm back then. No one worried about blood.
The guy that came back to the station with the most blood on him, was the coolest guy, and you had the best stories to tell, and it was just kind of like a badge of courage, badge of honor back then.
But then the AIDS epidemic taught us about bloodborne pathogens. Healthcare professionals were contracting hepatitis C, and things changed.
We went from, not wearing this stuff to double gloving, Tyvek sleeves, goggles, masks, and no more coming back to the station and washing our hands in the sink that we shave and brush our teeth in to clean off all the blood.
Blood was no longer a badge of honor, just as soot from a fire is no longer the trophy it once was.
Those trophies that we used to bring back to the station, we learned could potentially be a death sentence. You come out of a fire, whatever clothes you're wearing, and you know it, because a day later, 2 days later, you take a shower, you go for a swim, you go for a run, you can smell the smoke coming out of your pores. You're not smelling smoke, you're smelling chemical residue.
We now understand the need for an on-scene decon process to protect ourselves from contaminants. Here's how it works. When exiting the building, stay on air, going straight to the decon area. The engine driver should set up a decon line with low pressure water from a clean source and mark it with a green cone.
Man, engine 33, decon is set up at engine 33.
It's a quick rinse, really no more than a minute, and if you have multiple people exiting the building at the same time, a little coordination between who has the most air goes last, and those that have the least amount of air go first.
Stay on air while checking each other out and turn the radio mic right side up. And make sure there are no areas of the gear where water could get inside the inner lining. Avoid getting water in the top of the jacket near the neck, only spraying below this area. Do not spray the head, neck, or helmet area at all. The firefighter being rinsed should keep his arms up with his hands out to prevent water from getting in anywhere. Work your way from the top to the bottom, getting under the pack and the straps, and then switch and have the firefighter who was rinsed wash the other firefighter the same way, still on air. The last rinse is of the bottom of the boots, and then you can both go off air. The helmet will be cleaned later with the radio and the pack. Here's why this is so important. There are 3 routes of exposure to contaminants from your gear. 1, inhalation, 2, ingestion, and 3, absorption in the skin. You want to minimize your risk, and the rinse does this in 2 ways. Getting particulates away from your airway.
One of the best ways to remove the particulate contaminants is to put water on them. It holds it down, makes it less likely to become airborne.
And also away from your skin.
When you're coming out of the building, your body temperature is already elevated. Your pores are wide open. These potential contaminants are sitting on our body, and when the pores are open, it's a gateway into our system. Potentially there may be smoke or particulate matter still within our environment, and that's why we want to come off our mask last, because of the potential of that route of exposure being inhalation. We want to protect our respiratory system at all times.
After the decon rinse and before going to rehab, the firefighters should doff their gear, placing everything on the ground or a tarp. The gear doffing area should be downwind of the rehab area. Be careful, especially when taking off your hood.
You're going to be pulling it over your face, which is a direct route for inhalation or ingestion. So a brief period of time of holding your breath, removing the hood in one solid motion, getting it away from your face, and then taking that breath.
The goal is to keep the rehab area as clean as possible. Now for the wipe down. First, using department-provided wipes, clean your hands very well, getting in between your fingers. Use a new set of wipes for your face, cleaning your forehead, cheeks, and then another set for the neck region and the area behind your ears. Use a clean wipe for your eyes.
Your eyes, for example, is a great example of an avenue for which contaminants can enter our body. Same thing along our neck. You have your various glands and you have thinner skin. You also have a lot more hair in this area that potentially allows the avenue of travel for those contaminants through the hair follicles and the open pores.
Remember not to eat or drink until your hands and face are wiped clean so you don't ingest anything. After your hands, face, and neck are clean, move to the rehab area. Make sure your bunker pants are all the way down and away from your groin area. It's important to bring and switch back into your department uniform work boots, and an extra change of clothes is recommended. Science has proven the gear is still off-gassing, so gear bagging will further protect you while riding in the cab.
So the longer that it sits there, the greater the chance is that you're going to get re-exposed to it. So one thing that we can do is we can make sure that when we're ready to leave the scene and that our gear is then taken, placed in the bags with the appropriate techniques to reduce the chances of further contamination or exposure of those products that remain on the gear until it's washed.
So while wearing your medical gloves, use the department-approved bags and put your boots, pants, and jacket inside the bag. Tape it up around the base, fold it over on top of itself to tape it up again, and make it easy to carry. The hoods will go to the DC vehicle for a hood swap. The helmet, pack, and radio will get the final wash down. Pick everything up and head back to the decon area for a final rinse and scrub of the pack and radio strap. The helmet can be scrubbed inside and out, especially the areas that come into contact with your skin. Remember, dirty helmets are no longer a badge of honor.
We all want that dark, burnt-looking helmet. We don't want the shiny new helmet look because that means that you never went in a fire. But the reality is all of those particulate contaminants, most of those being heavier than air, are going to fall off your helmet, fall right into your respiratory tract, and be the avenue for exposure.
With the regulator seated in the cup to avoid getting moisture in, rinse the back of the pack with a department-approved cleaner, scrub the straps and any tools used.
Water application alone doesn't remove all of the contaminants, but it will remove the majority of it. When cleaning our equipment, we must use department-approved solutions. If we use a technique of scrubbing and those approved solutions, we can clean well and get in between the fibers, helping reduce the excess amounts of potential contaminants. Make sure that when we're wiping down the inside of our helmet and not flushing it, that we're careful around the sweatband and the inner part of the helmet. That area sits directly on your temporal region and is a potential for more contamination into your body.
The clean packs then get clipped back into place. The gear is bagged and now protected from the interior of the vehicle for the trip back to the station. If a call drops for the unit, the bag can then be ripped open. And most importantly, when you get back to the station, make sure to shower within the hour. The skin is the body's largest organ, absorbing everything. So remember, after the next fire, this says it all. Whether it's an unknown biohazard or the obvious known carcinogen, either way, it's time for decon.